Namaste to all the viewers that have joined us today. Sangam Talks welcomes you warmly. Today we talk about the Ramayan vantage point, and our speaker argues it is in fact Odisha. Exploring the legends, folklores, cultural memories related to the Ramayana from a niche perspective of Odisha, tangible and intangible imprints, reflections in the various creative and performing art forms, and unique trivia. Our speaker today, Preeta Rout ji, is a heritage and culture enthusiast, a Satyanveshi, curator of lesser known facts about Bharatvarsha's socio cultural legacies and heritage with a niche focus on Odisha, researching, unraveling, analyzing, and curating rare facts and connections. I welcome you warmly, ma'am, and I request you to take over from here.
Dhanyavad. Thank you, Ojasvi. Jai Jagannath, everyone. Um, I'm Preeta, and thanks to Sangam Talks for giving me this opportunity to speak on the topic of Ramayana, but from a vantage point of Odisha. Like Ramayana is a topic and a subject that is, I think, dear and revered to millions of people around the world, especially Southeast Asia. And every region of Southeast Asia has their own link to Ramayana stories and happenings, and then also their cultural imprints. So is Odisha. And before I start my presentation, I would like to give a little like a precursor to that, like saying that this is just a curation, and I have tried to curate and put and collect everything that I have at least grown up learning or knowing or listening from elders and from different sources about the Ramayana from an Odisha perspective, like how we perceive Ramayana, the Odia Ramayana, and the different books and poems and other things that are associated with Ramayana, different rituals, different handicrafts and other stuff. So this is exclusively from a vantage point of Odisha, and because of that, you would see traces of the Balmiki Ramayana and also the local Ramayanas, which have been very popular in Odisha, which were composed by some of the most eminent seers and composers, poets, of Odisha region. So you would see a trace of both the classic Balmiki Ramayana as well as the local Ramayana stories and legends. So with that, and as I was just saying, Ramayana is extremely significant throughout Southeast Asian culture and even like beyond that. And the imprints of Rama and his siblings and his the half Devi Sita, it transcends times and cultures through leaving so many different imprints all across the world. And not just from Rama's perspective, in some other places, some niche areas, you see the perspective from the Asuras side, also from Ravana's perspective and other side characters. So as you all know, in Southeast Asia, there are different retellings of Ramayana in their own languages. Like if you go to Thailand, Indonesia, Cambodia, they have their own Ramayana retellings. In India, apart from the Balmiki Ramayana, there are other regional Ramayanas also, which are equally significant in each of the regions that they have been composed. Some of the most ancient ones being in the Tamil Kamba Ramayana, and one of the most revered ones in many parts of India being Goswami Tulasidasa's Sri Ramacharitamanasa. Similarly, in Odisha, we have different retellings of the Ramayana. Some of the most important ones are the Vichitra Ramayana, Bilanka Ramayana, and the Jagamohan Ramayana, or the Dandi Ramayana. So today's presentation that I bring to you, here I have tried my level best to make it a succinct compilation of Ramayana from different perspectives. Like we will cover events and places in the Ramayana that have a connection with present day Odisha, like the places where Sri Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita, Devi Sita, are supposed to have visited, or like during their Vanavasa, or during their journey back to Ayodhya, or even during Devi Sita's exile period. Then we will also take another perspective of the cultural heritage that it has created. Different literatures, different creative and performing art forms, festivals, all that revolves around the story of Rama and the Ramayana. And some of the most popular and dear creations, some of the names we will see in the subsequent slides. Then, when we talk about Odisha, it is impossible that we would not talk about Sri Jagannath, because Odisha, the region, and Sri Jagannath, the Jagannath Sanskriti, are so closely and immensely intertwined that we cannot just separate one from the other. And anything and everything that has happened in Odisha, you can see a reflection of that in the Jagannath Sanskriti or Jagannath culture. So we will see the different aspects of the Ramayana in the perspective of Sri Jagannath's culture, like in the Sri Mandira, in the festivals during Ratha Jatra, and even in the mathas and monasteries that surround the Sri Mandira in Puri. So first of all, as I was showing you, that we will touch upon the places where Sri Rama, Lakshmana, Sita visited, or according to local legends, according to the classics, the local stories, and even legends which have been carried on from generation to generation by many indigenous tribes and people who inhabit this land. So in that perspective, Odisha is, as a region, we will see how, like, which all parts were touched by the journeys of Sri Rama, Lakshmana, Sita. Now, in that, let's talk about the Dandakaranya region. Like during Sri Rama's Vanavasa, a major chunk of his Vanavasa period was spent in the Dandakaranya region. Like, not going into the details of the entire Vanavasa period, here I have tried to just showcase some of the important places which in Odisha we feel like we have folk records or folk memories of Sri Rama having visited these places. The ones in red that you see are the places not in Odisha, but like have a very big significance during the Vanavasa period. But the non-red markers that you see here are mostly the places in Odisha having um, the the link with Ramayana. Now, as you saw the Dandakaranya region that I had roughly showed you in the previous slide, the present day Odisha, like how the political boundaries of Odisha are, if you see the westernmost, like the northwest, west, and the southernmost part of the Odisha region, like present day Malkangiri, Koraput, Nabrangpur, Nuapada, Kalahandi, Bargarh, Balangir, Sundargarh, like these area is like the easternmost fringe of the Dandakaranya region, especially the west and southwest parts of Odisha. So Dandakaranya as a region like continued into the deep recesses of the forests and the mountains of the Eastern Ghats here too. And the Ramayana footfalls can be very clearly seen in some of the folk memories in these parts. So let's take few of those places one by one. So if you see the region, the district of Malkangiri in present day Odisha, like till a couple of decades ago, this was the undivided Koraput district. So the Malyavantagiri region of the fabled Malyavantagiri mentioned in the Valmiki's Ramayana or the old Puranas, people believe that Malkangiri is that same fabled Malyavantagiri, and the river Tamasa is the river near the caves where sage Valmiki composed his Ramayana. And these hills and these areas of Odisha, the undivided Koraput region, today's Malkangiri, Koraput, and all, is inhabited by a very primitive indigenous tribes called as the Bonda tribes. And in the Bondas, and they are very primitive tribal group of people who had been leading a very like similar way of their lifestyle for millennia, you can say. So they carry their legends and stories orally, and one of the most famous popular local legends in the Bonda people is about why the Bonda women don't wear any clothes on the upper half of the body, and they didn't used to have any hair. They shaved their head and they didn't wear any clothes on their upper part of the body. They just covered it by adorning it with different jewelry, beads and jewelry. Now, why is that? According to the Bonda people, there is a little like a water hole there, which is called a Sita Kunda, where Devi Sita was supposed to have been taking her bath during her Vanavas period. And while she was taking her bath, and she had taken off her garments to cleanse herself. Some of the girls from the Bonda tribe saw her, and they started laughing. Like it's according to the legend, it's just a legend, but because it says that since they laughed, they were doomed, that they laughed at another fellow woman who was, who was garmentless and taking a bath. They should not have been insensitive at that point and laughing. So they were doomed to a life of going garmentless on their top half and shaving their head. It's a legend that they carry. But the point to understand is the Sita Kund is associated and remembered by the Bonda people for centuries and millennia as being the place where Devi Sita took her bath. And this is the same Sita Kund also, one of the places from where water was taken before the consecration of Sri Ram, the current Sri Rama Mandir at Ayodhya. So this is one of the important places associated with Ramayana. Then close to Malkangiri, like in today's Koraput region, this is a very unique finding. I also personally, I had not been aware of this for the even till very recently, till last year. So this is something surprised me, like how some things have persisted for centuries without people like even in the same state being like realizing that something like that is there. Now what is it about? It is about a people called Balmiki, and the language that they spoke, the Balmiki language. Now in all of India we know that there is a clan called Valmiki, people belonging to this clan who inhabit different parts of India. That knowledge is, I think, very common in most part of India. But what is special about the Balmiki of Koraput, Malkangiri area of Odisha and the nearby regions in Andhra? Because see, these are present day boundaries, but the people have been living here for millennia, many millennia. So all the political boundaries are drawn. Some, many of them are in Odisha, and some are in also the bordering Andhra there. So the Balmiki people, they themselves trace their lineage back to the Rishi Balmiki, and surprisingly, the language that they speak, even now, the language of the Balmiki people in Koraput, it is so very similar to Sanskrit language that it's like uncanny. Like I have hardly seen any present day language, even the languages like Odia or Marathi or Telugu, Kannada, like some words are like Sanskrit based words, but the grammar, the syntax, like the way Sanskrit is spoken, you can find it in Balmiki language, which is a very niche group of people even speaking even now. So that I heard a whole seminar with a gentleman who has written a book, and like he's a Balmiki he belongs to this clan and he speaks this language, and he has written a book about conserving this language. So the way he was reciting and talking about it in the Balmiki language tone, it was simply amazing. So I encourage like whoever is listening to this and interested, please go ahead and like find out more about the Balmiki language spoken in this little pocket of India in Odisha and neighboring Andhra. So that is another connection to Balmiki, to the Balmiki of Ramayana times, where the people are still here. Then we move on to another district, to the Mahindragiri mountain. This is in the present Gajapati district, undivided Ganjam district. Mahindragiri has been a very significant and important landmark for Odisha for like many millennia now. Like Odisha's like presence and whoever have ruled over Odisha, people who have lived here, done maritime trading and all with different parts of Southeast Asia and other places. People who have come to Odisha, Mahindragiri has been like a very major point that has been like a identity for Odisha. Like especially for example, in Raghuvansa of Mahakavi Kalidas, Kalidas describes the king of Kalinga as Mahendrapati and also as the Mahodadhipati. So Mahindra mountain is very, very significant in Odisha history for in different generations. At the same time, this Mahindra mountain is one of the mountains which has been described in the Ramayana and other epics, where it is described as an iconic Kula Parvata. Now, what is so special about Mahindragiri and Ramayana? Now, if you go to present day Mahindragiri region, you will find some footprints of people say that these are the footprints of Bira Hanuman right before he jumped onto, like he leaped onto the Lanka island. So if you read Balmiki's Ramayana, there is a whole sarga about his preparation to jump on over the sea and go to Lanka, and how he presses the Mahindragiri with his feet, and what happens, and everything is described about the Mahindragiri region. And you would find the descriptions of the biome and the other things what Valmiki has described very similar to what you find in Mahindragiri even now. And it also, Mahindragiri is supposed to be the abode, the ashrama of Bhagavan Parshuram. People local people feel like many people who believe, they feel the some like some divine presence and energy in those mountains even now, they say. So that is the place from where Bhagavan Parshuram went to Mithila when Rama like broke the Shiva Dhanu before he married Devi Sita. So from there he had gone and then he came back there. So that is his ashram. People think that he lives on Mahindragiri. And as I was telling you about Hanuman's jump, there are some researchers who propose that the yojana distance between Mahindragiri and Lanka, like present day Lanka, that what in popular belief people think about Lanka, like the aerial distance, it is very plausible to think that this is the Mahindragiri from where Hanuman would have lived and gone to Lanka. Then we see another place that has direct connection with the Valmiki's Ramayana is the Gandhamardana Parvata in Odisha, in like current in Balangir, Bargarh district. Like it's like it extends here on the western parts of Odisha. This hill is full of medicinal plants, herbs, and like it is even now at this point of time, it is enriched in biome, it's enriched in flora, which is extremely helpful for medicinal, like different Ayurvedic medicines and other things. And it is a very ecologically rich biome, and it is designated as a biodiversity heritage site. Now, what is the legend behind this Gandhamardana Parvata? They say the legends say that when Hanuman was flying with the Sanjivani Booty, holding the Parvata, which has the Sanjivani Booty to save Lakshmana's life, that time a chunk of it fell down here, and it became like the, like, because it is from the same Gandhamardana, it holds the similar medicinal plants and herbs and everything even now. Then let's see another very unique place in Odisha. This is not from Balmiki's Ramayana time. This is, in popular beliefs, it is believed that Devi Sita spent some of her years in exile in this place when she was exiled later on in life. And here, like when Lavakusha were born, and then they studied in Maharshi Valmiki's ashram. So this place is called Sita Binji. It's in Kionjhar district, and these are like very unique rock formations, the little hills and mountains. There is a very pretty river, like little river, which flows, and people call it as the Sita River. And in this boulder shaped mountains, you see like huge boulders and like precariously positioned rocks and all. So it's a very unique type of hill and mountain where there is a little cave, and people worship certain stones and boulders, as this is Sita and Lavakush here. And there are other boulders and places which are named after the Ramayana story, like Rabanachaya. Like there is a stone called the place where Balmiki, when he was the Dasyu, before his life as a rishi, he had kept the, it is like Bhandara and all that. So, like, there are a lot of different types of legends associated with this region. And also, I just like to share one thing, that Devi Sita's exile period, there is a beautiful book, a poem book, which was written by one of the most eminent poets of Odisha, Swabhav Kavi Gangadhar Mehra, Tapaswini. In Tapaswini, Gangadhar Mehra describes the the way Sita felt, and it's so beautifully he has described about Sita's life in exile, and the nature beauty and everything. It's amazing. So this is one part of Ramayana which has got connection in Odisha's context. Now we saw about one Sita Kund in previous one of the previous slides from the Bonda Hills. So there are other places in Odisha also where legends say that during their travels and during the Vanavasa, Devi Sita also used those places. So the one Sita Kund we saw, then there is Amma Kund, there is a Sita Kund in Boruni, there is a Sita Kund in Singhanath temple, there is a Patal Ganga in Nuapada, there is a Sita Kund in Mayurbhanj. So all these places are, according to local legends, like mostly Lakshmana would have put his arrow and into the stones or the boulders, and the water would have come out, which never ever goes dry. And Devi Sita would have used it either for bathing or sometimes for cooking and other works. So all these places in different parts are associated somehow or the other with Devi Sita's name. There are certain places in Odisha, like we know about foot impressions of Sri Rama. We know that Sri Rama's foot impressions are there in many of the major regions which he covered during the Vanavasa period, like starting from Chitrakoot to Panchavati. There are many places all across India which were touched by Sri Rama's journey and having the foot impressions. So is Odisha. There are some select few places where local people believe that the impressions on those rocks are from Sri Rama's times when he crossed these places during his Vanavasa period, and he spent some time there with the locals, where he used to sit down and listen to the locals, woes and worries, or like a small Rama Darbar there, because they were all Rama's people. Although the king was in exile, still everyone was Rama's people, like Rama's subjects. So he used to listen to their woes, worries, and all. And in some places, he used to sit down and do his own ablutions and meditation and all. So there are certain places in Odisha, like this is a Rama Pada like impression in Malkangiri region. This is near Similipal in Jashipur. We find Rama's impressions. So these are a couple of them. Then, apart from that, there are a lot of places across Odisha where local beliefs and legends say that Sri Rama, during his passage through Odisha, worshipped God Shiva or the Devi somehow or the other, in some form or the other. Like they would have, Sri Rama would have consecrated the Shiva Linga in certain places, or worship Devi Durga for leading him to Lanka. So I have just collected few of those temples, which the temples were built much later by the local rulers and kings who came, but the Shiva lingas worshipped there are supposed to have been consecrated by either Sri Rama, and in certain places by Sri Lakshmana and even Devi Sita. So Rameshwara Devula, Lakshmaneshwara, Bharateshwara, Satrugneshwara, this group of devulas in Old Town Bhubaneswar is one of them. Then the Ramanath temple, Baidyanath temple, and Bali Singhanatha temple on the Mahanadi, they are also like supposed to have been consecrated by Devi Sita, Sri Rama, and Sri Lakshmana. Similar is the Gupteswara Shivalinga in Koraput district. It's a very it's a difficult journey to make. It's inside the cave, and a very very ancient Shivalinga. This one too. Sri Lokanatha temple in Puri is also supposed to have been the Shivalinga. According to local beliefs, is said to have been done by Sri Rama. Even the Balunkeshwara temple. So there also, I'm pretty sure there will be other places. I have just collected a few here where Sri Rama was supposed to have worshipped. And this particular temple near Konark, the goddess Ramachandi's temple, according to local legends, Sri Rama, Prabhu Sri Rama, came and worshipped the goddess Ramachandi here after Devi Sita was already abducted, and he worshipped the goddess to show him, to give him the energy and show him the path to Lanka so that he could go and rescue his beloved Sita. So these are all local legends and beliefs, and these all places have like magical energies, and people still like a lot of people visit these places. Now let's go to another section. Like those were all like actual places which we believe in Odisha was graced by the footprints of Sri Rama, Devi Sita, and Lakshman. Now let's go to the next, about how creative arts, performing arts, and other things are influenced by Ramayana in our lives. So here you see a Talapatra Chitra, a manuscript, like a painting, a traditional painting style on the dried palm leaves, which is called as Talapatra Chitra. Pattachitra is on the clothes, and this is on the dried palm leaves. Now here, it might be like, it's for Odiyas, it's nothing. Like it's a familiar sight, a man in green hue with a mustache and bow and arrow, and the deer. The deer also shown as like different phases of the deer. These are not four deer, one deer in like shown in the different stages. This is nothing but the chasing of the golden Mayamriga deer by Sri Rama. Now here, many of you would be surprised by how Sri Rama is depicted, a green hue with a mustache and all. We will talk about it a little later. So let's just move on and see why it is green. Now, the hues of Sri Rama and Devi Sita, whenever they are depicted in anything traditional in Odisha, so the hues of Sri Rama and Devi Sita, we clearly have depictions about Sri Rama being described in a greenish hue as the color of the sacred Durba grass, the Durbadala Shyamam, Ramam Durbadala Shyamam, or in Odia we call as Durbadala Rama Sarira, like the Durba grass or the sacred Durba grass. So in Odisha, all over, you will see anytime Rama is depicted in art, in craft, even in theater, in anything, a greenish hue is used for depicting Sri Rama. And in many places, even like in certain places, the Rama and Lakshmana are depicted with mustaches and beards, mainly because when they crossed Odisha, it was their Vanavasa time. So during as a Vanavasi, their look and their toiletry was different than Raja Rama in Ayodhya. So these little nuances you might see in certain traditional arts and crafts and theatre crafts from Odisha. Similarly, Devi Sita is always described as the hue of the golden blossoms of the Indian hemp plant. That is the Shana Puspa. Our very dear, very famous poet Upendra Bhanja, very beautifully describes Vibhusana Puspe Jakanti Jana. So Bhusana Puspa's color and hues, like the beauty or the loveliness of Sita. That's how he has described. So, moving on to the next part, like I just told you about how the color of the hues of Sri Rama Sita are described. Now, let's see the different parts of creative arts and performing arts, how the Ramayana has influenced. Now, Ramayana epic, as we know, has been retold in every Southeast Asian language, not just Indian language. So in Odisha, the Dandi Ramayana or the Jagamohan Ramayana, Bilanka Ramayana, and Vichitra Ramayana. These are the most important Ramayanas that were composed. And they were all composed in the medieval period. And the uniqueness about these Ramayanas are, although they have the story of Rama, Sita, Lakshmana, and the other characters of Valmiki's Ramayana, there are still a lot of nuances and originality to the events described here, because the poets have taken the liberty of using their time period, their society, and certain aspects of the local culture and flavor while composing this Ramayana, so that it will be much more understandable and relatable to the local people. And all of these are composed in very simple Odia language, which everyone, like all Odias, can understand. There are different Ramalila books and Jatra theatre traditions of Ramayana. Like again, in spoken Odia, in people's Odia, there are a lot of theatre books which were composed. Like there were different versions, and some of them are even enacted now as theatre. Similarly, Sanskrit language Ramalila was also composed by some Odia scholars, like Anargha Raghava was composed by Kavi Murari. That was in Sanskrit. So Odisha region has seen poets and writers composing in like colloquial Odia, in classic Odia, and also in Sanskrit for many different subjects. Now, the classic literary classics based on Ramayana, if we like, the most important name that comes to our mind, like he is popular, and like these two poets are popular all across Odisha in different across different what do you say, the societal classes or masses. So although they are classics in literary way, but at the same time they are accepted even by each and every area, like uh, the poetry written by Upendra Kavi Samrat Upendra Bhanja. He is a wordsmith. He is a wordsmith extraordinaire. Like I wish I could tell you the depth and the beauty of the compositions of Upendra Bhanja, the way the chandas, the grammar, that like the way the poetry that has evolved in his books is one of the, I think, one of the most beautiful in the entire world. Like if you, some people in Odisha say if Upendra Bhanja was born in, not in Odisha but in, in Europe or something, like how people reverse Shakespeare, like same thing how we talk about Mahakavi Kalidas, Upendra Bhanja to most Odiyas is like that. His compositions are something way beyond like beauty itself. And his Aradhya were Sri Rama, and he had attained Siddhi by praying to Sri Rama. And most of his poems he would see dedicated to Sri Rama's life. Vaidehisa Bilasa is a epic which he has written. Every line starts with ba. In Odia, we don't have va like Vaidehi. We say Vaidehi. So ba as the consonant he has used in each and every line of this entire book. Like the entire book starts with va. Vaidehisa Vilasa. Same Tapaswini written by Gangadhar Mehra depicts Devi Sita's exile period, as I was telling you a little more. And there are many more books. These are not just the only books. I just showed you these two. Now let's move on to sculptures on ancient temple walls. If you see Odissan temples, like you would find like dating back to more than 1600 years, till like the medieval periods, in many of these older temples which still survive, at least, like we have lost a lot of temples already, but whatever survive, find in many of these places depictions of Sri Rama and his stories from the Ramayana. And in some of them you find depictions of the Odia Ramayana, like how the poets have described it in their poems. The sculptors have like exactly depicted that, translated that into stone. So that shows how the sculptors of those days were extremely fluent in the literature of that period. So that's how they could like translate from Sanskrit classics to Odia classics into their sculptural works. So many temple walls have important depictions, and some of the most popular motifs in Odissan temples and Odissan wall arts, or from Ramayana, are like the lifting of Mount Kailasha by Ravana, then the Vanarasena, how they help Rama, and the sculpture that you just saw a little while ago, like this is a very iconic thing called Rabanara Chhatrabhanga, like Sri Rama destroying the Chhatra are the umbrellas which are carried near the king. So Rabanara Chhatrabhanga, the Chhatra is destroyed by Rama. This is from the Odia Ramayana, which is translated into sculpture. Now going to traditional painting styles which depict Ramayana motifs. Pattachitras from Odisha, which are done on cloths and with organic dyes. Many of the Pattachitras have like beautiful Ramayana motifs. You find in Pothi Chitra in long ago in medieval Odisha, when the poets used to compose beautiful poems and they used to be written and inscribed in the dried palm leaf Talapatra Pothi. Many of them carried chitra, carried the illustrations to go with it. Like imagine illustrating with an iron stylus on a dried palm leaf. Very, very difficult. But those days, there were like adept artisans who did that very beautifully and totally keeping the typical Odia way of depicting all these characters. Now, in this, you see Kabi Samrat Upendra Bhanja's illustration, the depiction about Sri Rama and Sita's marriage ceremony, where Upendra Bhanja himself is standing on the side and he's looking at it. It's just like a depiction of it, how you would have seen it in his Manas Chakshu, and composed the entire Vaidehi Shabilasha. So, very beautiful Pothi Chitra tradition. Again, the same Pothi Chitras, I always love to say that these Chitra Pothis were the animes of the olden times, like how now most of the youngsters are so fascinated by Japanese anime books, comics. So these were our very own animes from all those hundreds of years ago, like small events depicted in one sections, one squares, and then the lines would be there here about like depicting like about the next event, like like and they were entire things called as Chitrapothi. So unfortunately we don't have like there are a lot of palm leaf manuscripts which have been conserved, but we have also lost a lot of it. And as you all know, palm leaf manuscripts have a shelf life of their own, like they don't exist forever. So at least whatever we have from that, we have managed to know that this was a beautiful way of taking forward our traditional stories, epics, itihasas into local psyche, and making it visually beautiful, and also like a record, and at the same time keeping the local flair in mind. These are a few Pattachitras I have collected from certain sites, and you see in everything Sri Rama is in green hues. Now, these are wall murals on temples, like one is in Buguda, Ganjam, the very iconic Bidanchi Narayan temple, which is home to some of the most iconic wall paintings in the traditional style done a few centuries ago. With time, these murals have become a little faded and all, but you would still see the beauty and the expertise of those artisans and artists who have painted these beautiful murals there. And as you will find, most of these are from Rama's Vanavasa time or during his fight with Ravana. So this one is iconic, that the Bali and Sugriva Yuddha when Rama uh, shoots his arrow. And this particular one is the Ravana Chatrabhanga, as I was telling. What same thing, Ravana Chatrabhanga again as a motif you see at Boda Odia Mathapuri. Here Ravana in his Vimana, and Sri Rama, he, you see the depiction, always the depiction is perfectly translated as per the lines described in the poem or the epic. Line, like the each stroke by stroke, place by place, the artist always replicated whatever was described in the poem. Now let's see some of the most popular events, as I told you, which we find in Odisha depicted in sculptures or even our poetry or the chitras. So some of them are like in like the uh, Vaidehisa Bilasa, that poem, that big poetry book by Kavi Samrat Upendra Bhanja. One of the most beautiful pieces people always recite is about the washing of Sri Rama's feet before the Kaivarta or the Dhivara. He allows him on his boat, what is called as the Kevat Prasang in Sri Ramcharitmanas. Similar one, we see the depictions beautifully in Vaidhesa Vilasa. Same thing is, if you see how Shurpanakha comes and approaches Rama and Lakshmana, the that particular event, how Upendra Bhanja has described here, like when he sends the message to Lakshmana, the way he is sending it, it's like a beautiful word play. Like the lines that he says, Babu Naka Siri Dano Jogya Josaku, Bihara Kana Nakara Alinganaku. The way he's saying, Surpanakha feels as if this is a favorable thing about her. Rama is saying to Lakshmana, but Lakshmana understands the meaning inside the meaning. So it's like a Matryoshka, I always think, like those Russian dolls, a doll within a doll. So this is like that coded message thing. When someone hears, it sounds something, but the actual meaning, even with the same words, is completely different. So all these word plays, the alankaras, the beauty, the depth of things, like the way it was composed, it is very widely adored by Odiyas all across Odisha. Similarly, the Mayamriga Upakhyana, when Sita sends Rama to get the golden deer, and I already told you about how the Ravana Chatrabhanga is depicted always. So all these songs, be it from the La Ramayanas or be it from this difficult worded, composed poems by these masters of Odisha, by this poem, great poets, like although some of them are like heavy with words and alankaras and some are like very colloquial, but if you see, all these type of songs are popular in all different groups of Odisha, like be it boatmen, be it farmers, be it bullock cart drivers, be it mendicants, musicians, singers in the royal courts, in gatherings in the temples. You don't find a place where you don't see such songs being sung, like Ramaje Laikhyana ho gale mruga mari. You would hear that a bullock cart driver also singing, or the pathos in He Bonagiri, He Lottagiri, when Sita is singing when being abducted by Ravana. Any of these songs, if you open when I was little, in the mornings in All India Radio, or in the records and the CDs, all these, and even now the tradition persists in Odissi music. In Odisha, we have the Odissi classical music system, just like how there is Hindustani and there is Carnatic. Odisha region has its own classical music system called Odissi traditional classical music system, and most of our songs, all these songs which were composed by the great poets through the different centuries from medieval times to early 20th century, they were composed in certain ragas, certain chand, the talas. So they were all ascribed. So the singing style has not changed in all these years. So even the farmer also would sing in the same style, and the same technically better version would be sung by a classical musician in a court or a assembly. Now let's move on to some of the other traditional crafts and other things which are, have Ramayana traces. The Ganjapa traditional game cards, very popular uh, in ancient times, and even now you can find in certain pockets of Orissa. Are like some of the motifs are mostly from the Puranas and all, and many of them you will find even Ramayana related motifs in the Ganjapa traditional game cards. The mukha, the paper mache, the traditional masks that you find from Odisha specifically, because masks are there in many parts of India also. Odisha's mask specifically, we call it as mukha in Odia. And as you see, the again the color, the depiction, and all, stays true to the Odia traditional art forms, like how each character is depicted in a painting, in a mask, in a theater. They all stay the similar way. So Rama, Lakshmana, Sita, Jambavana, Hanumana, anybody, you will see they have a certain pattern of depiction. Now let's go to a very unique little folk instrument. It's called a Ramatari. It's an instrument which carries the name of Sri Rama in it. So Ramatali or Kathi, using the traditional form of storytelling called Daskathia, and also in a folk theatre form, shadow theatre form called Rabanachaya. Same Ramtali is used as a accompanying instrument. So an instrument that bears the name of Sri Rama. Then we go to the traditional theatre forms from Odisha. There are two theatre forms that I would like to talk about. One is enacted by people and one is not enacted by people. The main players are puppets, and they are shadow puppets. Like some of you who might have been to Indonesia or seen, or have researched about Indonesian theatre, you might have seen certain shadow puppetry even in those parts of Southeast Asia. And the similar shadow puppetry theater was very popular in Odisha in earlier times, and now there are. It's only a select few places which are active with this shadow puppetry. It's called as Rabanachaya. Rabana means the main character, the anti-character in Ramayana, and Chaya means the shadow. So Rabanachaya. And there is a lot of things involved in this. If you are interested, you can find out more how these are made, like with which skin and what people do, what all instrumentation is used. There is singing involved. it's a beautiful theater form. And the actual, like the jatra or the theater form where people enact about Ramayana episodes. Now this has again, this is a very thing which has been evolving through the times. In ancient times, how people used to do jatra and how people do jatra now are very different, but something that stays common is the main pieces of music and the actual, like, main songs and dialogues that are used, which are from the original, those theater related books. But apart from that, there are additions pertaining to the changing times, how they add other characters or other styles of dance and all. But if you see in even now in a lot of villages and places during festivals and all, these Ramanataka, Ramalila related to different episodes of Ramayana, like both Balmiki and mainly our Odia style Ramayana, many jatras and traditional theatres are performed. Now coming to street festivals. uh, Street festivals, one of the most important street festival and most like a very visually very vibrant one, is the Sahijata of Puri, the street carnival theater of Puri. And in this you will find a lot of characters of Ramayana. You maybe Parshurama, maybe like Ravana, Khara, Dusana, Rama, like there are different characters from the Ramayana which are enacted on the streets. And it's very typically a Puri thing, the Sri Khetra Puri. It happens only there. And a unique thing which happens is before the Sahijata, Ravana himself goes, the person who is enacting Ravana, he himself goes and prays to Jagannatha before the starting of the Sahijata. Like, this is a picture from there. So, what I understand from this little episode here is, in our ancestors believed in respecting the good in everyone. Every person has some good things, some not so good things. Sometimes people do certain things which are not supposed to be done, but that's like how every human or every being they function even now. So Ravana, being a very wise learned and a great devotee of Bhagavan Shiva, he is revered for that aspect of his. But of course, because of the thing that he did was, like, he duped Devi Sita by taking the form of sannyasi or a sadhu, who are supposed to be the most the ones who everyone trusts. So he basically started the trend of people even questioning sadhu. Sadhu, the word itself, he put a like a eclipse on. Sadhu means somebody who is not to be questioned. But Ravana taking the form and abducting Sita, that was one of the gravest mistakes he did. And of course, by the most gravest mistake is abducting Devi Sita herself. So those things aside, we still revere the wise in the wisdom and the reverence of his for Shiva. So when he comes to Jagannath temple, he starts the puja, and then they go and do enacting the other things. Dasapalla is a place which is also very, very famous for his Lankapudi Jatra. It's an iconic street festival. Many, many people, thousands of people go there to witness that also. And there is a huge effigy of Ravana which is created. And again, the mukhas, the creations are all like keeping with the Odia traditional system of making all these accessories. So Dasapalla, Lankapudi Jatra. Then the very iconic Asureswara Ramalila. This is in Nayagarh, in the land of the temple of Sri Raghunath Ji. So Asureswara is a place where you see the enacting of Ramalila. Again, the Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita, the way they are depicted are in the Vanavasi form. My apologies for the not so good visuals here. Like, if you enlarge it and see maybe later, you can see the face of Rama with green hue and a beard and a mustache there. So very this is again a yearly occurrence and a very iconic theater to witness. Now that is in accordance with the temple where Sri Raghunath Ji is worshipped in Nayagada. Nayagada is a place where there is a place called Odoga. In Odoga, the temple dedicated to Sri Rama, Lakshmana, Sita worships the gods and goddess in their Vanavasi form as forest dwellers. So if you see as a forest dweller, they have a bird. Rama and Lakshmana have a mustache and a beard. They're not clean shaven there. So it's a very beautiful and very unique type of idols of the gods and the goddess. This is the same place where Kavi Samrat Upendra Bhanja actually did his sadhana and attained his siddhi before he could compose all the beautiful poetry that he did later. Now, coming to the last but one part of our presentation, we go to the Sri Mandira traditions and the Sri Kshetra traditions about the Ramayana in Jagannath culture. In the different besa attires of the deities of Sri Jagannath, Balabhadra, Subhadra, there is something called as the Rajya Abhiseka Besa or the Pushya Abhiseka Purnima, where they are adorned. Like one of the times they're adorned with Sunna Besa, with golden attire. There are other times where they're also adorned with golden attire. But this is in accordance to the Sri Rama's coronation ceremony, which happened on the full moon night, Purnima of the Pausha month after he returned to Ayodhya. So during this Besa means the attire, there is also something called as Mahodadhi Abhisheka and the Samudra Arati. The priests and other writers, they go near the sea and they offer arati and the pujas near the Mahodadhi, because there is a belief that for this Abhisheka, all the other gods, goddesses, and the different divine beings, they get down on the earth to witness this Abhisheka of Rajaram. Like this is a ritual in Sri Mandira in the Puri temple which is used, and there are a couple of sculptures I have put here from the different matha monasteries that are near Sri Mandira. That is a very unique and extremely rare Besa attire of Sri Jagannatha, which has happened only very handful few times in all these centuries. It's called as the Raghunatha Besa. Now, in this, the deities are attired like Sri Jagannath Devi Subhadra and Balabhadra. They're attired and depicted as Rama's, from the scenes of the Ramayana. And all the other characters are also arranged near them. And this happens on the day on which Sri Rama's coronation falls in the month of Vaishakha, and only 9 times it has happened. Since the last time it happened was in 1905. If you see the Ratha Yatra of Puri, each god, Jagannath, Balabhadra, and Devi Subhadra, they all have their own chariots, and especially in the chariot in the Ratha of Sri Jagannath and Sri Balabhadra, on Jagannath's Ratha, you find a little sculpture here near the wheels where Sri Rama is seated on the shoulders of Hanuman. And on Balabhadra's chariot, Sri Lakshmana is seated on the shoulders of Angada. Then we go to another aspect in Sri Kshetra, which is very prominently found. There are a lot of Mahaviras who are worshipped all around Sri Kshetra, in the Sri Mandira itself, around the Sri Mandira, around different parts of Sri Kshetra. All these Mahaviras, the Hanumans, are supposed to be the guardians of the temple, of the deities, of the Kshetra, of the city, of the people who come there. So Mahavira even now is supposed to be guarding Sri Kshetra for his Prabhu Sri Ram, which he sees in Jagannath. So Jagannath is the embodiment of Sri Rama for Hanuman. So you see a lot of different type of Hanumana temples and idols all around, inside Sri Mandira, around Sri Mandira, and around Sri Kshetra. Then the mathas and the monasteries. in Sri Kshetra. That is a very strong Sanskriti where different types of mathas are there all around the temple. And as you all might know already, that mathas were created for giving different type of sevas to the temple. Also, some of the mathas were like their main duty was to protect, guard, fortify the temple more in case of any attacks or any other challenges like that. So there are different types of mathas. Today I'll just want to showcase a particular matha sampradaya, because if you ever go to Sri Mandira next time, look at the top of the Sri Mandira, where you see the Ramanandi Chita here depicted on the Sri Mandira itself, on the top of the temple itself. Now this is a direct ode to the sampradaya which worships Jagannath as Sri Rama himself. So that is a direct ode for people who think Jagannath as Rama. So Jagannath, you can worship God Jagannath as anybody. You can worship as Rama, as Krishna, as Rudra, as Bhairava, as Dakshinakali, as Jagannath can be anybody, because every type of cultural confluence has come and assimilated in Jagannath culture in Puri. So this particular symbol you see is a direct ode to that. And there are certain like mathas around the temple, around the Sri Mandira, which are from this Ramanandi Sampradaya. And they worship Sri Jagannatha and also different festivals related to Sri Rama. Now, before I conclude my talk, I would like to say two very unique mentions about Ramayana related thing and Odisha. Ramayana related thing means Rama, right? Not the Rama is the main protagonist of Ramayana. Now, not going into Valmiki's Ramayana, just going to Sri Rama himself. We here I want to showcase something connect between Odisha and faraway Karnataka. Here comes the story of the Mularama Vigraha. If you ever go to Karnataka and go to Mantralaya, in Sri Raghavendra Swami Matha in Mantralaya, Karnataka, you will find the different type of Rama Vigrahas are worshipped, out of which the Mularama Vigraha is a very important Rama idol to be worshipped. Now that deities, there is a story that is a strong and backed with a lot of data and references. It's not just a folklore, but like there are records of it, that when Sri Madhavacharya, the famous Dvaita scholar, he knew about the Mularama Vigraha, which he was searching for a long time. Came to know that the Kalinga's kings had the Mularama Vigraha in their treasury. So he wanted to get that and worship it because his Ishta was Rama. And when Madhavacharya was visiting Kalinga from the way back from the north, his visit towards Karnataka, he stopped over in Kalinga, and during his discourse, one of the ministers in the Kalinga king's court, his name was Syama Sastri. He got influenced with the beautiful talk given by Sri Madhavacharya, and Syama Sastri became his ardent disciple, and he got the name Sri Narahari Tirtha. So I think Narahari Tirtha as a name is very, very famous in the Dvaita Sampradaya. People know about Narahari Tirtha. He has a lot of contributions in a different type of aspects of Dvaita, Vaishnavism. One of the most important disciples of Madhavacharya. So Madhavacharya asked Sri Narahari Tirtha, because of his connection with Kalinga, that could you please get the Mularama Vigraha so that we can worship it in the temple here. Excuse me. So Narahari Tirtha, he actually was the regent, you could say, because the in a part of his life, serving the Kalinga crown, one time the king had been like, not, he had not come of age, he was a youngster. So it was Shyama Sastri Narahari Tirtha actually who had taken care of the kingdom on behalf of the king. So now, because of that great service he had done, the king, when he came of age, he asked Narahari Tirtha, like, Swami, what do you need? I would like to give you some gift as a thank you gift for serving Kalinga so passionately and so beautifully. You have administrated the kingdom. So then Shyama Sastri had asked for the Mularama Vigraha, and the king happily gave it to him because he revered Narahari Tirtha very greatly. And Narahari Tirtha, Kasama Sastri, took the Mularama Vigraha to his guru, Sri Madhvacharya, and that same Mularama Vigraha is worshipped even now in Mantralaya. So, any of you visiting Mantralaya, think about the connection between Karnataka and Odisha at that point of time because of Sri Narahari Tirtha. This is something which is a very local thing, and even many people in Odisha also don't know about it, but it is a strong local belief and it has a Ramayana connect, so I wanted to showcase this here. So it is about the Lankapuri in Odisha. Subarnapur or the Sonpur is the golden land, like Subarna means gold, and there in the inside the river Mahanadi there is the little temple with the very ancient worship of goddess Lankeshwari. Now, in the huge Mahanadi river, the Mahanadi itself looks like an ocean. And in that, there is the Lankeshwari goddess who is worshipped since time immemorial by the locals. And according to local legends, this is one of the Lankas, because Ravana's kingdom had not just been the little island that we think of. Ravana's kingdom extended even into the Indian mainland that time. Even Dandakaranya region was a part of Ravana's kingdom, where Kharadushana, where his his representatives manning that administration there. Similarly, maybe Subarnapur also, as people believe that it is another Lanka, it might have been a part of the kingdom of the Ashuras. In fact, a very famous and very significant archaeological finding by late Professor H.T. Sankalia, he, in his archaeological excavations, he found the Manmunda Asuragad settlements in the southern bank of the river Tel, like it's a tributary of Mahanadi, which is very, very ancient. So, Asurgad, the name itself, is related to the Asuras, and that all these archaeological excavations also gave a strong connection that yes, this might have been a part of maybe Ravana's Lanka also somewhere, because Lankeshwari is also worshipped here. Even in nearby Junagadh, goddess Lankeshwari is one of the very, like the Ishta Devis there. How Lanka and Lanka, Sonpur and all might have been some connections with Ravana's Lanka is reflected in a very famous ritual tradition that is celebrated even now. Even like it is a tradition, people don't know when it started. It goes back, it is age old. So it's called as Lanka Podi Hanuman, or the during the like what the people do is, for the little kids, they would uh, they would pull the little Hanumans and other clay idols of Hanuman all across the little streets, and when it is night time, the Hanuman's tail would be lit on fire, and then they would be again carried out with the fire lit tail. They would be carried out everywhere in the streets, and then they would be the Visarjan would be done in the nearby river. So that is a tradition that has been kept alive for all these centuries without fail. So even some people say that this is a place certain people like disrespect Hanuman's attack on Lankas. That is one section of belief. So, with that, I conclude the talk for today. We covered a lot of things, like I tried curating. Like couldn't say elaborately about most, but like if you are interested, please go ahead and find more about it. You could write to me on my email shown here, like if you wanted any more resources to to check more detailed way into these things that I was speaking about. But thank you for the time in listening, giving me to listen to me. And as I said, like Ramayana, every region of India would have their own beautiful story to tell, and own way of like celebrating it, even now, in our language, in our culture, in our music, art, everything. So, with that, I would like to thank Sangam Tux for giving me this opportunity, and may the spirit of Raja Ram guide us to be honest, to be diligent, to be the best version of ourselves. And thank you, Joy Jagannath.
Yeah, so like I was saying, thank you very much for that very elaborate peek into the intersectionality between the land of Sri Jagannath ji and Ramayan. We do not have any questions from the audience today, but we have a lot of comments that talk about all the new things that they've learned about this culture through your PPT and your talk, for which we are deeply thankful for gracing our platform. And we wish to have several such talks with you, ma'am. Namaste.
Namaskar. Thank you.